In this video, we are going to be looking at Illustrator. So Adobe Illustrator is quite similar to Adobe Photoshop in terms of the layout and the workspace. So everything should look quite familiar to you. Anyway, let's get started with creating a new file. So you would go up here to File, New, and then let's open up a letter size. Okay, so you can just click on letter size, but before you do so, let's go over here and take a look. Okay, so our width is here and our height is here of the document. You can change the units from pixels to inches, feet, millimeters, centimeters, meters, and so on. Okay, and here's the orientation, portrait or landscape. You can change the number of artboards here as well, but we'll just stick to one. So the artboard is the white canvas that you see. Okay, so if you're creating a multi-page document, you can have more than one artboard. And this is the bleed here. We'll talk about that later on in the course. Next is the color mode. So we talked about the two different kinds of color mode in Photoshop. This applies to all other graphic design applications as well. So we have the CMYK, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and that's for print. And we have the RGB, which is red, green, blue for web. So CMYK are the colors that printers use for printed material. And RGB are the different colors of lights that make up the many different colors that we see on the screen. So in short, you just have to remember RGB is for web and CMYK is for print. Okay, and if you want to save it as a JPEG or something like that, you can save it in these different settings: 300 ppi, 150 ppi, which is medium, and screen, which is 72 ppi, and even lower is 36 ppi, which is quite low. Anyway, now we can click Create, and we'll see our artboard show up. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is to create a shape. So if you go over here to your rectangle tool, so this is your tools panel. At the very top is up here is your control panel. And on the right hand side, there's many different panels that we'll, of course, take a look at throughout the course. But here we're going to start with the tools panel, and I would like you to select the rectangle tool. If you hold your mouse down over the rectangle tool, you'll see rectangle tool, rounded rectangle, ellipse, polygon, all similar to Photoshop. What you might not have seen in Photoshop is the star tool and the flare tool, a bit of a fancier tools that you may or may not use. All right, so let's start with the rectangle tool. You select it, and then you go on your page and you click your mouse and drag. And now you have dragged out a rectangle. So the color of your rectangle is shown in your control panel up here. So I'm just going to go over to Selection Tool so that I don't accidentally click out another rectangle. So I click on my rectangle and I go up here to my control panel, and where the swatch is, this is for my fill, which is the inside of my rectangle. I'm going to go over here and maybe choose a nice hot pink to make my rectangle pink. On the right hand side is my stroke, okay, or the outline. That's called the stroke, and I can choose a different color. I'll choose red, and then I'll make my stroke quite thick. Okay, or maybe I'll choose a different color. Red doesn't see, I'll go back to black. Okay, now you can see my really thick stroke. Click on it. Again, to make the stroke bigger, you go to the stroke weight over here. You can also click down here and pick a preset weight. That's pretty thick. Okay. You can see here, let's go over to Window, Strokes. Okay, so again, I went to Window up here, then Stroke. All right. And under that, you can see that I have the weight of the stroke, much similar, very similar to what's up here. So you're probably wondering why I needed to go to the stroke panel. Well, the reason is because there are more options here. So go to this little menu icon over here at the top right corner and show options. And here I have different options for the cap. So the cap is the where it ends, but I don't have any cap here, but I do have a corner. So the corner is, I can make it rounded or kind of cut off like that, beveled. Okay, I can go back to the original, just a sharp corner. I can align the stroke. This is in the middle of that stroke line there. I can align the stroke to inside, so the stroke would be inside of the, my rectangle, or it could be outside of my rectangle, or the stroke could be around the inside and outside, so the stroke line can be in the middle. Okay, I can make it dashed lines over here. That looks a bit strange, so maybe if I went here and I change that bit, there we go, dashed lines. Okay, I can change, the gap between my dashes. I can make the gap much bigger, so 20 points. Space out my dashes more. 50 gives it a more obvious, there we go, 50, space it out. Or I can really space it in, so 6. There we go. Right, so there's one. Oh, so I'm inside. You can see that I'm inside of my rectangle here. Look at the breadcrumbs. So I'm just going to go over to layer, and I'm going to click on my, I keep clicking on the inside, so I'm going to go back here, click and drag it over here. And I would like to have another rectangle. I can just draw another rectangle, or I can click this and edit, copy, and edit, paste. Okay. And then I can change the stroke here. So, okay, so I no longer, so this is still dashed, so I'm going to go over here and click on not dashed. And then I'm going to make this more thicker. All right, so another thing I can do is click on it, go Control-C and then Control-V on my keyboard. Okay, I keep going inside of my rectangle, so Control-C and Control-V. And then I can also change the color up here, like that yellow, and also change this to a different style. And another way to duplicate this is to click on my rectangle, hold Alt on my keyboard, so that's the one on right beside your space bar, and then drag it out. There we go. And then I can change the color of that as well. Okay. Note that when you move it around, there are all these guidelines that appear. So Illustrator is helping you try and align your items, your objects, to each other. Okay, we'll talk about alignment later on, more in the course, but basically when things are aligned on a page in a design, they look better. Okay, so alignment is one of the key design rules. All right, so I have gone on quite a bit in this video. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to create an ellipse. Okay, so go over here and hold your mouse down and then go down to ellipse tool. You can change my color before I get started. And then I'm gonna click and drag, holding shift, oops, cancel. Holding shift, I'm gonna click and drag a rectangle out, and then I'm going to change, again, the stroke of that. Okay. And if you wanted to draw a circle with the ellipse tool by giving numeric values, you can just go to your circle here, the ellipse tool, and then click on your page once, and this will show up. So this shows you the most recent size of ellipse that you drew, which is 255 by 255. If I wanted to draw something bigger, I can go 300 by 300. Okay, and then I'll go OK, and there we have it. Okay, I'm drawing another one here. I'll change the color of it. Don't like that one too much. Blue. And then we will change the stroke weight. And there we go. So I would like you to just draw some rectangles and some circles and play around with the strokes and the colors. And then now go to File,